Listing of companies on stock exchanges brings discipline, and it disciplines a company and provides access to financial markets and unlocks its value. It also gives opportunity for retail investors to participate in the wealth so created. The government now proposes to sell a part of its holding in the LIC by way of initial public offering.
LIC's initial public offering or IPO has been one of the most talked about IPOs over the last year. A part of the government's larger program to reduce shareholding in public sector companies, this IPO is touted to be India's biggest ever. But there have been some questions about this. Will the IPO allow LIC to expand its reach and get more Indians insured? Does the government really need LIC's IPO for national investment? And what does this mean for an organization that has a public service ethos at its core? Let's find out on this edition of On the Fence. India's insurance penetration is currently hovering around 4%. Now, it has been argued that the IPO will allow LIC to expand its reach and get more Indians insured. But how likely is this to happen according to you?
The point is today, in India also, substantially the Indian insurance market has been penetrated. The Insurance Regulator and Development Authority, in one of its findings recently, has estimated that around 61 crore people are insurable. So out of that, LIC has already insured 42 crores people, 29 crores to 30 crores direct customers, 12 crores through group schemes. So 4% is not a bad thing. Yes, there is scope to improve, but it has nothing to do with IPO.
IPO will certainly make LIC a more popular brand, because between, two sets of people who knew LIC very well, the agents, of course, and the policy holders, and then of course India as a whole, as a large. But that did not inspire us to buy insurance policy in the past. I suppose somewhere along the system has to be blamed, LIC itself has to be blamed, to the extent that LIC has been selling, let's say, its products more as a savings and investment product rather than a protection product, basically. If it is purely an investment product, it does not compare too well with the other financial products. A fixed deposit could give you a better yield compared to, let's say, a life insurance policy for that matter. And then your funds are tied up for a longer period. It's a non-negotiable instrument to the extent that it cannot be transferred. It's unlikely that IPO will inspire us to buy sort of insurance policy, or penetration would really rise on account of just the IPO, basically.
The second debate here has been about the purposes for which the government is pushing for this IPO. Given that LIC gives back a part of its surplus every year to the government, is the IPO really necessary for the government's objectives of spurring national investment?
If 5% of, let's say, the equity of LIC can get the government about 45,000 or about 50,000 crores, as it was originally expected, then it would really become a way in which, let's say, the union budget could be financed. And that is certainly a very interesting proposition to my mind. Because 2-3 things have happened in the recent past. If you really examine the economy performance from 2014 onwards till about 2018 or 19, it was almost a lackluster performance. Compared to the potential India always possessed. COVID, of course, created more problems. That impact really created a larger demand on the government to find out ways in which funds could be raised. And let's say the deficit, let's say, in the financing of the budget could somehow or the other be reduced. And to that extent, I would say this program has a significant impact in terms of contributing to the economy. The so-called development financial institutions in the Indian mechanism or in the Indian working has really gradually collapsed. We are looking for infrastructure funding, and I think in that context for the economy, this IPO plays a significant role.
LIC has been regularly contributing to the Government of India for financial, earlier for 5-year plans, now also for so many developmental activities and infrastructure development activities. Out of the investable surplus, LIC has already invested 30 lakh crores in the Indian economy. Every year, it is generating the precious people's savings to the tune of 3.5 lakh to 4 lakh crore rupees, and is able to give to the Government of India at a rate of interest is very pittance. That is around 65 paisa. In some cases, it is less than that also. So LIC is contributing for the Indian Railways. LIC is contributing to the National Highways program. LIC is contributing to the infrastructure program of the country. Now we are having a genuine apprehension that if LIC's government stakes are open for private people, these people are going to come to the board, and they might demand their profitability. All those things will come. We are worried about the impact which is going to create on the economy of the country.
Finally, a big question has been around transparency. Now, with PSUs generally being under a cloud of doubt with respect to their practices, will the IPO help or force LIC to be more transparent? And does it need more transparency in the first place?
As far as corporate governance is concerned, without being a listed company, LIC has won the Golden Peacock Award for n number of times than the listed companies. LIC was framed, the board was framed, the entire working pattern of LIC was chosen in such a fashion that there is no scope for any type of non-transparent practices. And it is the major complaint for all the vigilance rules. So the practices of LIC are open, and the books, maintenance of LIC are open. We can see LIC periodically submits reports to the IRDA for every 3 months, and the books of LIC are being presented in the parliament. Once it is placed before the parliamentary committees, Public Accounts Committee can use our accounts of LIC, and all other public sector accounting, other practices, some select committees, they can verify the records of LIC. So LIC has been transparent, will be transparent in future also, but it need not go for a listing fashion. Whereas the other companies, though they are listed, though they are under the watchful eyes of SEBI and other RBI and other things, they have been indulging in so many malpractices, and they have been caught in very, very bad things.
See, there are 3 sets of transparencies. The first one is transparency in regard its dealing with the let's say policyholders. In case of life insurance corporation, I mean, you have 2 or 3 segments of policies, and then there are different varieties of, let's say, products that LIC offers. The transparency in regard determining the investment income, from a huge pool of life fund, in different investments that LIC makes. I mean, there is no clear transparency in regard how much of that, let's say, income are attributed to different sets of policyholders, basically, or different classifications of policyholders. As far as the processes are concerned, they're fairly transparent. However, when it comes to intermediation, also time and again we find that the agents periodically misrepresent to the policyholders. They give different promises on returns. For example, it may not actually materialize. So that, I think, is one area where transparency has to be brought about. But the third element, when it comes to the governance of Life Insurance Corporation, quite seriously, I mean, I would say not much is actually known. We do not know, for example, why a certain sort of kind of investments are being made, and sometimes they were seen as an extension of government's balance sheet to salvage or to save the government, let's say, from a certain kind of loss and a certain kind of investment. With now retail shareholders coming in and institutional investors coming in, the order of that transparency in the governance will have to really change. It's very interesting play. I mean, first time ever, it's going to be there, and it's going to be really interesting, I would say.
We want the government of India to strengthen the hands of LIC so that it can contribute more for the development of the country. We don't want the LIC hands are limited, rather tied by way of this disinvestment of shares, and board being open to the investors. The perspective of LIC, rather objective of LIC, is from going to servicing to profitability. We don't want.